If you've never been to Phoenix, Arizona, specifically Sedona, please add it to your bucket list. Actually, if you're a US real estate investor, I'd prioritize Phoenix for sooner than later. I just returned from 6 days in Arizona, which was absolutely beautiful, much better weather than what we had back home. The vibe was awesome, views amazing, food, and by the way, I love Mexican food, and of course, opportunity. Uh, Add to that sunshine every day. It was the perfect way to break up the winter. And also, I was working on location. I wasn't on vacation. Greetings, real estate investors. My name is Erwin Szeto, a Canadian real estate investor, entrepreneur, author, podcaster, four-time award-winning realtor to investors in Ontario, who happens to advise his friends, family, and clients to not invest in Ontario. Uh, Go ahead and hold what you got. I can't imagine why anyone would add to their long-term residential rental portfolio in Ontario when there's such better opportunities in the States. My guest today, the super awesome Quentin D'Souza, who owns hundreds of apartment building doors east of Toronto, is still buying and he makes a lot of money. And that's the truth about real estate investing for Canadians. There's lots of ways to make money in real estate. I'm not saying that my methods are the best for everyone. So that's why I always have guests on who with opposing contrarian views to my own. And that's how we learn. Speaking of, in meeting with networking with Americans in Atlanta, Austin, and now most recently in Phoenix, I'm finding these Americans generally have bigger businesses and higher incidence of successful entrepreneurs. I also met with a real estate investor in Phoenix who happens to be Canadian, but invested in Phoenix. I believe they are the most successful real estate investor of my generation that I've met personally and know personally. Add to that, there is a tax deferral in the US called Section 721. I'll explain with an example. And never forget, I'm not an accountant. Please seek professional advice. Verify anything I or my guests ever say. Back to the example. If you owned a piece of real estate and the buyer, a REIT, a real estate investment trust, so a company with a lot of money, in this example, if it's structured correctly, if the REIT is structured correctly, you could sell your real estate to the REIT in exchange for shares in the REIT, and the tax related to capital gains, it doesn't happen until you sell those shares. So you're able to defer capital gains if things are structured correctly. If you sold to a good REIT, you can now earn dividends. Dividend income is taxed preferably, and if you ever need the money, you could always sell those shares and spread out the tax. Or you could, when you die, you can pass on those shares to your kids and defer taxes till they sell, versus in both death and sale of property, you'd have to pay tax in Canada. The opportunity is better than America. The tax deferrals available to investors makes building generational wealth easier. Did I mention the weather is better too? To answer a frequently asked question, if I'm moving to the USA, no plans for my family and I to physically move in the short or medium term, and who knows what holds for the long term. Our family's investment portfolio, if the objective is to make real estate investing profitable again, cash flow positive again, then yes, we are absolutely only going to grow our portfolio in the US, and we're continuing to shrink our Canadian portfolio to do so. On to this week's show. We have my old friend Quentin D'Souza returning to the show at my request, as I needed a trustworthy real estate expert to share with you, the listener, about the multifamily market. And he's not going to sugarcoat how tough the last few years have been and what and where the opportunity is going forward in the multifamily space. Quentin is going to share his journey, how he does hard things and involves his family to lead his best, most successful life possible. Quentin is founder, chief education officer of Durham Real Estate Investors Club. That's a private membership group of many excellent real estate investors and professionals. If you're in the GTA area, the Greater Toronto area of Ontario, make sure you check out a Durham REI event. They meet monthly in Whitby, and you can learn more about them at durhamrei.com. If you're from the GTA, hopefully you know how to spell Durham. Quentin has authored several books I highly recommend on many subjects. He's written quite a few of them. He's written books on the BRRRR strategy, the finding deals, scaling up, filling vacancies, property management. Each of those subjects is a whole entire book. You can search Quentin D'Souza on Amazon or simply go to his website, quentindesouza.com. Needless to say, have a pen and paper ready to take notes, and please enjoy the show because together we're going to make real estate investing profitable again. Quentin, it's an honor. What's keeping you busy these days?
Hey, well, Erwin, I don't know. I'm just doing my regular life stuff. I go to the gym, and usually I'm at the gym 5 days a week. I go hiking on the weekends, at least twice a week. I do a 6K walk when I get up in the morning. And then I'm focused on, the real estate portfolio. So I'm working on repositioning the buildings, usually like some construction projects or trying to get some permits or get things going. So
Hmm.
that keeps me busy. But in the mornings, I dedicate it usually to health and fitness, and then the afternoons are business, and weekends are family and hiking.
Right. Quentin, we said a mouthful, and I've known you since 2008, so we have a lot to unpack there.
Oh, yeah. And 2008 was very different. It was a very different time, and like we were getting 100% CMHC financed rental property mortgages.
Yeah, yeah,
I felt like I was doing something wrong when I was taking 5% down, CMHC mortgages, and now I was like, man, I wish I had like 100 of them.
yeah.
But hindsight is always 2020. Um, and I don't know. Yeah, it's been a while. We met in Rain, right?
Yeah.
Back in the Rain days with Don R. Campbell. I still like every once in a while I see his Facebook stuff, and I'm just
Hmm.
like, good for you, Don. Good for you. Living life, having fun, right? So that's kind of neat. And yeah, it's I've seen you do many different kind of changes over the years. So you're Mr. Hamilton, and now you're Captain America or something like that. See,
Something like that.
you know, but so there's always that, and you're at I don't know if you're still with Rockstar, but
Still Rockstar, yeah.
yeah,
Since 2010, yeah.
yeah, since 2010, Tom and Nick are great guys. So like you have some good mentors there on the realtor side of things. So that's good.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, I've had a lot of different experiences, through the different markets, and I'm still here, which is good. So I was in 2008, I was doing like single family homes and renovating them and refinancing them. So doing the BRRRR strategy.
Mhm.
Um,
Which you wrote a book about,
yeah, yeah, yeah. The Ultimate Wealth
a
Strategy
bestseller.
with
Yeah.
with Jeff Woods and Andrew Brennan. Well, a bestseller in my mind, anyways. But it's a great book, and it's a good story, and people really like it. And it was just how we did things, right? And I think later on you kind of saw it as a strategy when Bigger Pockets kind of picked it up and kind of relabeled it. But it's been great. Like people have been using that same strategy for decades, right?
Mhm.
So it's just it was good to help us to get started. And then after buying like 4 or 5 properties a year, starting in like 2008 is really when I started to buy 4 or 5 properties a year. By the time I got to 2013, I left my teaching job. I have, my master's in ed and all of that, and I left, and I became a full-time investor. So it's been over 10 years now that I've been a full-time investor. I never got down the path of like mortgage broker or realtor. I stuck to being an investor. I flipped houses, when I left my job, and did some rent to owns and some assignments and things like that. And then, I figured out that I was doing more work being flipping houses than I was teaching. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to change things around. So back in around 2015, I started to buy small apartment buildings, along with doing, my same duplex conversions and things like that. And I just continued to grow the apartment building side, continuing to refinance them, hold them, buy more, take on partners, and continue to grow the portfolio. So now I have like 25 apartment buildings across Southern Ontario. I think about 570 units, 580 units in Ontario. I bought properties in the US in Tampa. So I've got four properties in Tampa. And those have done well. I bought them back in like 2018, 19, and um, so that was good. And I've invested in the US and different partnerships, and I've in private equity and all the mess of stuff. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of different things, but I'm trying to travel more. I want like I really focus on traveling 3 to 4 months a year, which has been really good. And I like to take trips with my sons who are 17 and 20 and currently single. And they I like to bug them, but we have a great time. We've done some really amazing tours and hiking trips and stuff like that. So it's been good.
So now I think the listener knows why we have a lot to unpack here and why I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time. It's hard, in hours, we can catch up over like a weekend or something and it still have more to talk about, right? So
Yeah.
we've got
Well, again, well, you teach and you coach. I don't think you coach anymore, but you're just a
I
resource.
I I do Durham REI. I would do
Hmm.
like what I think the challenge I have is that I would do Durham REI even if I didn't get paid, because I feel like I'm giving back, and I feel like I still have that teaching kind of part of my life which I still enjoy, because that's where I was before. And I like to open people's eyes to education and opportunity, because then I know that from just all the people that I've interacted with in the past, I've seen them grow. Like
Hmm.
I've seen them do new things and different things, and I like encouraging um, people to try new things, because that's how you find out what you like and what you don't like, what works and what doesn't work, right?
Hmm.
um, I think that sometimes what happens is that you have to be consistent and you have to stick with it, and it's easy to stick with something for a year or two. It's harder to stick with something for a decade or two. And truly, like, when I look at real estate is something that can make a real difference for somebody for a couple years, but pick the wrong years and it could be a challenge.
Yeah.
And then, but decades. If you take a decade point of view, you're going to do much better.
Yeah.
And but most people don't have the patience to do it, or they have too many other things that they have to keep in mind, right? Like some people start too late. They're like, I'm in my 60s and now I need to retire. Well, you needed to start working on that earlier,
Yeah.
right? And then what happens with those people is that then they take on bad risk that puts them into bad positions with people who do the promissory notes for 16 or 18%,
Hmm.
or some sort of investment that doesn't work well but sounds really good. So that's what you have to watch out for when you put yourself into that position. Then you start to take risks that don't make sense,
Hmm.
and you have to educate yourself on what risks are you know okay risks for you. So depending on where you are in your life. So, for me, if I were to lose, 100, 200, $500,000, it's not gonna, it's not gonna affect my life. But for a lot of people, it would take them out, right? They'd be done. And so everybody's at a different place and a different dollar amount. And you have to kind of know where you are and what risks that you can take and what you're okay to lose and what you can, you can depend on to grow, right?
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people wish they heard this advice, before like 2021, and all these people like got home equity lines on their homes and lent that money out on promissory notes on who knows what.
I don't, you know what? All like in 2020 and 2021, I was telling, and I mean, you can go back to like we record all our Durham REI meetings, right? So you can go back to the past meetings and see every meeting. I'm telling people, get your like your debt locked up, get access to equity, get access to your lines of credit, like do all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
I was hammering on it for 2 years. I felt like I was like a broken record,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, everybody needed it, right? Like and hindsight again is 2020, but like when you're at that part of the cycle, you need to be creating and having access to all that equity because you're going to need it in the other part of the cycle, which we
Yeah.
are in now. The
Mhm.
last 2 years we've been in that,
Yeah.
and this is where having access to equity is going to be able to help you. If you were lucky and locked into long-term debt, then you would be in a great position, but not a lot of people did that. I didn't do that. I wish I had locked into some longer term debt instead of having some variable rate mortgages. But my loan to values were very low because I had owned property. I tend not to, I have sold, like I've flipped before, but I wish I held all of them. All the properties that I flipped, they all cash flowed when I flipped them, right? Because that was the strategy that I was using back in 2013, 14.
Yeah, it's a great time to be buying and accumulating.
Yeah, it was, and it was easy to flip, and I don't regret it because I had a good cash position that I could use to then buy more property
Mhm.
and hold on to it. But I think that it's just it's good to be able to hold those assets and over a long period of time because then your debt decreases and your income increases. But it's hard right now for investors to get into the Ontario market. There's so many people that are selling their assets in Ontario, moving to Alberta, moving to the US. I mean, that seems to be the trend with people, and that's okay. Like, I mean, I see what's happening. It's really hard for like an investor that has one property and or two properties, and
Mhm.
they have one tenant or a couple tenants that aren't paying because it takes so long to go through the landlord tenant board. The bureaucracy is not there to help the small landlords, and nobody in the province seems to listen or care, right? And it just discourages investment. But I think that, so this is just my opinion, but I think that there is a war on against realtors, investors, property developers in Canada.
Yeah.
That is currently our federal government. They have a war on against us.
The
And
municipal government too, I think, for many of them, not all of them, but
I don't know if they have a war on it. I think they think that the developers are just cash cows. There's like ATMs or something. Like
yeah.
you can't go from like 2000, what was it, 2004, 2007, where development fees were like $5,000 a unit to $100,000 a unit in 2024 and blame that on inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like 1,000% increase, that's called, we know where our cash cow is and we're gonna do as much as we can. instead of taking the long view, which is not what politicians do, which would be create the tax base so that we can tax them with property
Yeah,
taxes,
property tax. Yeah,
right?
it's the annuity. Like,
But they don't think that way. So then nothing gets built, right? And you erode your tax base. Okay, so now the only thing that can be built are rentals. How, I don't like that seems to make sense because the number, like, I don't know, there's just so many condos that have come on the market last year and then that are coming up this year that are flooding the market,
mhm,
and they're not worth what they were when they sold them,
yeah,
when they're going to get it financed, and they have to bring cash to the table,
mm,
100,000, 150,000 to the table to close to get financing,
yeah,
or
because we're underwater.
they're underwater. And I don't know about you, but I'm hearing some of the tricks that developers are using to get around that. Have you heard some of the things they've been doing? Maybe, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. I don't give a shit. So, but
Sure, sure.
this is because like this is what I'm not going to say a specific developer, but like, so let's say you're $100,000 in the hole,
Hmm.
right? And you need to get
So sorry, let's just clarify that. So would that be like
let's say you're a
the
condo
property's
buyer.
valued appraising at like 100,000 less than I paid for it?
Yeah. So let's
Okay,
say you paid 1 million for it, and
good.
the value is 900,000.
Yeah,
And so your mortgage is what, 20% of that. So what's 20% of 900?
80% loan to value. So yeah,
720,
it's
right?
like over
Yeah.
700,000. Yeah,
So okay. But you've put, let's say you've put you know, $100,000 down, right?
yeah.
To buy the condo. Okay, like for your deposit. Well, your mortgage is not going to be 900,000, right? Your mortgage is going to be what?
Over 700 something.
720.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's going to happen is that the developer will credit you $100,000. So that as if you had the down payment of
Yeah.
an extra $100,000. So instead of 100, you put 200 down. The reason is that they can get, now the person who has the condo can go out and get the mortgage, because they can get the mortgage because they put the $200,000 down. They don't have to bring as much to the table to close, right? So you're putting less down. Now you've got the mortgage, okay? And you're like, woohoo, you're happy. But the thing is, the developer still wants their $100,000. So you can't sell that without with you can't just flip that condo without that developer getting their $100,000 still.
So they're putting a lien on the property?
So it's
This is tricky.
yeah. So
So like
there's,
buyers need to beware if they're ever buying one of these things.
well, they probably just happy that they're able to close on the property and not get sued by the developer for not closing, right? And the developer's helping them, right? But there's all this stuff. This happens in every
Hmm.
cycle. This always happens when we're having problems. I mean, we're having developers fail all over the place, all over Canada, right?
Hmm.
We had what is that, 1,800 units out in BC. Developer who was I think Kingset was
Mm.
the loan on that, but like, they're foreclosing on the developer who's I think was a reputable developer too, and just has gone under. And there's going to be multiple, like, their war that they have, this federal government war on developers and investors, is working because they're losing all of these people. And when the people who worked for these companies lose their job, they're going to move to a place where they're going to get a job. And if that is not Canada, they will move to those other places and will not have those skilled workers to replace them. We're going to have a skill shortage, and we can mark this, down here, but maybe 3 years from now, 2 years from now, when everything's changed, maybe we have a different government. I don't know, but I'm hoping. But if we do, then we're going to still be in this skills shortage position. We're going to have a lot of challenges that is, I don't know, we're going to have some real challenges that we're going to have to deal with.
Hmm.
And AI is not going to move your 2x4 for you, right? So I
It
don't
won't
know
lay
how
brick.
efficient
It won't plumb a
we're
toilet.
thinking. Yeah, like it's just some of these things that were happening, and it's because I think we've gone too far in one direction,
Yeah.
right? So, but
And just to add to the developer thing, condo developers are now, like before the pandemic, for example, like a 4% commission was pretty common. 2% on closing, 2% upfront, 2% on closing. I'm hearing some condo developers are now offering up to 7% commissions. They're
wow.
that they're that motivated to, yeah.
Well, I can see I mean, there's just too many that have come to the market with too little value, and people can't qualify for mortgages, right?
I
Like
know.
you just don't have the ability to qualify. So, I mean, there can be changes to be able to do that. You would remember this. Remember 40-year AMs? We got
Yeah, I remember
back
40
in
year
2000,
ends. Yeah,
in 2008 when we were doing those CMHC, 100% financing. We
yeah,
were also getting 40-year AMs
yeah,
for
yeah.
those
I think
rentals.
2011 we were still getting them. Yeah,
Yeah, it was. I think when it was like 2012 or 13, when I had left my job, that's when they started to get rid of them,
yeah.
and that's when I switched to doing the BRRRR strategy because it was just as easy, but it was
Mhm.
harder to find the properties to do it.
So Quentin, let's take a beginner scenario. Say you're brand new. I'm gonna take
Yeah,
away some of your assets, just assets, just to make this more relatable to an everyday listener. Say
sure.
someone has make maybe 100 grand in cash and like $300,000 on a HELOC. If that was you, what would you invest in?
Okay, so we have 100 cash and 300 in a HELOC. How much is the interest on the HELOC?
I think people are paying what, 6.5 these days.
Okay, 6.5%. Okay. So let's say, and what's your goal? Is your goal to have like a certain dollar value per month in your bank account? Is your goal to create a nest egg for you for some time in the future? How old is this person?
Let's say they're 40.
40.
Let's go with nest egg in the future, less focus on cash flow, but like would like to at least cover, right? So that the investment's not taking money from their pocket.
Right. So you're looking for some sort of equity. I would say that that there are I might look at some opportunities maybe out in like Belleville or Peterborough, maybe do like like a duplex with the ability to add an additional unit, where you can actually cash flow on properties out in those areas today. It's just that people can't qualify. And the purchase prices, you're seeing them at 600, 650. So the numbers are still working. So that would be good for that size of an amount that you're talking about, 300 to 100K. The 6.5% might be a little bit challenging because you're going to have the interest on it. But if you're able to add some value to the property, I'm always about buying properties that you can add value to and then having something that's worth a little bit more. I think that's something that I would look at.
Hmm.
Other than that, I would look at a small multifamily. I would probably look at like a 5 unit or a 6 unit, out that way. Just because I think even maybe in a tertiary market, just because you be able to affect the NOI a lot easier, and I don't think people understand the difference between an apartment. I come from both spaces, so I speak fluently between the two, and most of the time people don't understand that the value of a duplex is based on the value of the duplex across the street or
Hmm.
down the street, and the value of an apartment building, a 5+ unit, is value of income minus expenses. right? And if you can change the variable, you can change the value. Sure, you can have like, the cost approach and, the replacement approach. But really, what people want when they buy a building is based on the cap rate and the net operating income of the building. So you can affect it more. And I'll give you an example of a small a building that I got from an assignment so I paid 20K for an assignment from a property manager, and I bought a sixplex. And the sixplex, this was in 2015. Okay. I was able to turn over 2 units or 3 units in that sixplex. So I bought it for like 600,000. Okay. And then I was able to um, get it, let's say I got a new after about a year and a half of owning it, I was able to get the value up to 750. Okay. Because I increased the rents, turned over some units, got rid of some pain in the butt people. And um I was able to pull out all my capital. Okay. So I've did the same thing a number of times on that same building. I've refinanced this one 3 times, and my I last year I got a new mortgage on the property. And how much do you think the mortgage of the property is now for the sixplex?
I don't know, 900,000. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
1.4 million. Okay. I am never selling this property because my tax bill is going to be higher than the equity left in the property. My tax bill is going to would be a nightmare. But that's not why I buy buildings, right? The reason why I buy buildings is to be able to refinance them and then reinvest in other
Mhm,
buildings.
mhm,
That's what I don't really have like a big like fancy lifestyle. I'm not really into cars or anything like that. Like some of my partners are, but it's not me. I like to travel and, just spend time with family. I'm
mhm.
pretty like a pretty regular kind of guy. Um,
Quentin,
now,
I want to ask that
yeah,
what's the next type of property you're going to buy for yourself? Like, so put your Quentin hat back on. You are Quentin
yeah,
D'Souza again.
yeah,
What would the what was what's a property that you'd be looking at to doing?
yeah. So now, right now, I turned down a really big property. Probably the one that would have changed the direction of things for me because I don't need it. It was going to be an ego thing. It was like over 125 units, and I turned it down, and I was very flattered by being offered to be part of it. And I turned it down because it's just it's just too much it's just too much work for where I'm at in my life. And I don't and I, it would have been an ego thing, and it would have allowed me to open up to many other deals, and I could have gotten involved with REITs and maybe using capital from LPs or different sources. And I I felt like I need to be in the 10 to 30 unit space. I feel very comfortable with just going to the partners that I've worked with in the past and say, "Hey, look, look, this is a project. It's a bread and butter project. We're looking at a 2 equity multiple in like 3 to 5 years. That's my bread and butter type of project. And if I can do that, then I'll just continue to buy those. And if I do 2 or 3 of those a year, those bread and butter projects, that's fine for me. Like I'm okay with that. And it doesn't take, like, because I've done it so many times, it's not it that I don't have to think as much about it. It's not as hard. A
Mhm.
lot of the work comes up front in the purchase, and once we get it into the machine takes over, and we can continue to work on the NOI through the machine, like the processes and systems that we have in place. And then that's how we can increase the value of the building. But, adding it to the machine So 10, 10 to 30 units is what I would be focused on. And I'm sorry if I, I wanted to make sure those people who have 400,000, yes, I still think you can buy property in Ontario, Peterborough, Belleville, like different markets, Kingston even, would be a good market.
All east side.
Yeah, well, but the truth is, I don't know anything about the West Side, so I'm
I'm
not.
just teasing.
Yeah, it's true though. Like it's not my focus. I don't like. I'm out to the Midland area. I'm up east along the 401 corridor to Ottawa. I get sent, buildings for Kitchener Waterloo all the time. I have no interest. No interest. It's just I like to focus where we're already are,
Mhm, mhm,
rather than someone new. And unless we're talking about like 30 units, I'm not going to go into a new area because of it's setting up the team processes, all of that stuff.
mhm,
So it's better just to work where I'm already at. And the other one too is the US, like if you have 100 to 300, you might consider going into like a smaller market that you take some time on in the US, right? Um, my son we're talking together, my older son talking together about purchasing property. And, I was talking about looking at something with him in Tampa and working on a project with him there to get started. Because of the cost to be able to get into it was much lower for him. And because I already have the team and relationships and the financing down there, it would be easier. So, but I was buying in Tampa in 2018. I was buying in Tampa for like 80,000
Oh,
for a
sorry,
three
Quentin,
bedroom.
before we
Oh,
move on from the 10, 30 units,
oh,
can you, other than you've named the cities that you like,
yeah.
what else is it about a deal that makes you interested? If you
Oh,
see a 10, 30 unit building in like Belleville, Kingston, Oshawa, what is it about?
oh,
What makes you know that it's something you want to buy?
it's the population growth in the area. So I want to see that the population is growing, the type of quality of the population that's there. Hopefully, they're all not on assistance. You want places that have like, different sorts of a wide variety of employment types. So you might have like a school, like a university, and then you might have different industries in the area. You might have some governmental like
Mhm,
offices or
mhm,
things like that. So I'm looking
mhm,
for those sort of things.
mhm,
I'm looking for infrastructure. Like, are they building new infrastructure to the area? Like in Peterborough, you have the highway system that's going out there. You have the Highway 407 that's connected up there now to the 115. A lot of things like that, where we want to see those improvements. And
mhm,
you can do the same thing. Like
mhm,
the same strategy works anywhere in Canada or anywhere in North America,
mhm,
right? It's just, having a criteria for the different things that you want to see in a given area, right?
mhm,
And then sometimes it's about like looking at the history of the area. So um, one of the things that we hear a lot about people going into Edmonton, and I've talked to friends, and you know some of them have bought in Edmonton back in 2008, 2009,
yeah,
and the
right
house
before the crash.
price,
Yeah,
yeah, the house price just recovered in 2024. So the house prices in Edmonton for those duplexes that she had are now even
yeah,
after how many years,
yeah.
right? And so like, but
You must
people
argue
don't.
you might be better off just going bankrupt back then and just go clean slate.
But I mean, like, so sometimes we don't look hard enough into the past to see what the future is going to be like, and so
Yeah.
that's what we want to look like too, right? um so I think that's important, and also like so the difference in Alberta versus Ontario is that they can build very quickly. Like they can do infills very quickly. Like you can build like 9, 10 units on a single family lot in like 18 months. Try to do that in Ontario. It takes
Yeah, good
forever.
luck.
It's like
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 years. It's just a
Dependence on the
bureaucratic
nose too.
nightmare. Yeah, it just takes forever. Like it's actually ridiculous. Like it's so much red tape and fees and like it just takes a long time. So it's understandable that there isn't the amount of new product that's going to come on the market that would affect vacancies and affect rents, but also population changes affect that too, right? So, with the recent government announcements with permanent residents and new immigrants coming in, that's going to affect the population levels, and also that's going to affect vacancy. We're probably going to see vacancy go up as a result of that, and in different sorts of waves, right? Because usually new immigrants come, especially students, come to like the centers, like different sorts of centers. So like they'll come to like Toronto or Kingston or like a Vancouver or the universities in those areas, right? And then the amount of housing kind of waves out from that, right? And so the people who are searching for housing in Toronto might not stay in Toronto because it becomes more expensive, and then they start to go further out. But then the further out housing starts to go up from a because of low vacancy and increase in rent. The opposite can happen as well if the population isn't there. So I think that, the next year or two, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I think rents are probably going to go down a little bit. And that's not a great thing for apartment building owners or people who own property in general. But as you were saying to me before the call, how many landlords and people in Ontario have you talked to who are just fed up with dealing with the landlord tenant board and are selling? We're losing thousands of units off of the market that aren't going to come back too, right? So that's the other piece, right? And we have like really what's happening is that the government is trying to push large corporations into develop rental housing versus having what it is right now, which is mostly small landlords. And it's going on like in front of our eyes. People
Yeah.
can see it. They just don't know what to call it. It's
Mhm.
the same thing like what we see in the US when you go to a small town, you see lots of different small restaurants, mom and pop owners, small hardware stores, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You
A
go to
lot
a
of owner
small town,
operated restaurants and small businesses. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You go to a small town in Ontario, what do you usually see? Like an
Starbucks.
Arby's, a Starbucks, a big like a McDonald's,
Franchises.
like
Yeah.
franchises, right?
Yeah.
Like and this is what's going to happen to our rental stock too. Like this is what is being done, and it's going to cost more in the end, and we'll have less housing choice, is what's going to end up happening
Mhm.
for those people and the ones that are, like how long do you think you're going to have like single family home rentals? I don't know if that's even going to be a thing, in Toronto or in
Ontario.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be very challenging to even see because it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And
Makes no
and the
sense.
and the only time it makes sense is if you own it for 20 years and then eventually you're going to have to sell it anyways because your kids, are going to want to sell it or something, or they're going to want to move into it and it's going to come off the rental supply. So, it's only a matter of time, unfortunately.
Sorry, Quentin, back to the 20 unit, 30 unit example.
Yeah.
What else about it? What else about the deal that makes you interested? Is it turnkey? The rents have been optimized? Or are you looking
No,
for something that's
no.
completely under rented? And
Yeah.
is there like an era that you're looking for, like 1970 and newer, or something like that? Any sort of
Uh, that's something that you hear more in like the States than in Canada because our rental stock is all from the 1970s anyways. Like you don't really have
I
much
need to come to Hamilton,
development.
see our stuff from 1910.
So yeah, well, like that's true. You have older stuff,
Yeah,
but most of the development that happened in Ontario is in the 70s, right? When
right,
they
right.
had the
In the
different.
markets that you're in, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think well all over the place just because of the way that they were structuring debt at the time and the way that you could write off your investments. It was a different type of financing model that was allowing for the development of units, similar to what we're seeing now in like with MLI Select and the developing of new units. So I like so 20 to 30 units. I'm looking for let's say under market rent, like 500 per unit. You know,
Under by 500 or rents are
yeah,
500?
no, under by 500, under market
Okay.
rent by 500 per unit. You know, probably, you know, with a cap rate that makes sense for the given market, right? Like you probably want a cap rate of 5 or 6% based on the fact that the rents are what they are, right? You're not trying to buy, like, you're not trying to buy a property that has rents where the person who is selling is telling you, yes, but if you rented it at market rent, this is what the property would be worth. Well, it's not, so it's not,
Yeah. You go do it.
right?
I'll
Yeah.
pay you for
So
it.
yeah, yeah. So go ahead. But so you're paying for what it's worth based on the current NOI, and that there's efficiencies that I can get when I start to work on the building. Sometimes I've separated out the water where it was only the hydro before, or we've put in our own submetering and submetered buildings before. We've done just different ways that we can add efficiency. I'm experimenting right now on a building where we're bringing in Wi-Fi to the building, and then we're charging the tenants for unlimited Wi-Fi for their
Yeah.
right. And so the person, like the companies that are in that particular town usually charge $75 a month for that, but we can charge 50 and we can make a profit in there, but that affects the NOI of our building. So we believe that we can increase the value of the building by 250,000 just by bringing in and using that Wi-Fi service. So things like that is what we can do to be able to do it. And cash for keys, turning over units, getting rid of like crappy tenants that nobody else wants in the building anyways because they're just disruptive and they're you know just people get used to things that they shouldn't need to get used to. And it's because of the landlord tenant board. Let's be honest. It's their stupidity that they think that they're protecting people when they're hurting the people they're protecting, right? So anyways, I don't want to get political.
Plenty of time for that. No, Quentin, I want to talk about a lot of your lifestyle changes. Like you mentioned a lot about like the Quentin I met back in 2008 wasn't walking 6K in a day
Right.
regularly and working out in the gym pretty much every day.
Yep.
Now,
Uh, yeah.
what are the lessons from the last couple of years? Like, would you go back and do it again? Would you, if you could go back and do it again, would you be adopting a similar lifestyle?
You know what? I think I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. I think that's what it was. In 2000, I was just working hard in my business for so
Hmm.
long and I didn't bother looking up. And then when I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh man, I'm fat, right? I'm 330 pounds. I can barely walk up a flight of stairs and I don't feel good about myself. And that was in like 2018. And then I lost 135 pounds, right? So it took some time to do. Like it was a lot of changes in everything that I did. And when I had done it, my business actually tripled in size. So my asset base tripled in size. So you can do both, but you have to be able to balance the time. Now, if I wasn't a full-time investor, I don't know if I could have done it in the same way that I'm doing it now. Um, I think I could still have a healthy lifestyle. 80% of it is what you eat. And you know what? Everybody can control that. It's not an excuse. But being able to lift weights or, go to the gym 3 times a week, that I think people can do it. They just choose to watch TV or choose to do something else. And you have to choose that this is the lifestyle that I want to lead, right? I want to be here for another 50 years as best I can. I want to see my grandkids and I want to be able to help my kids to grow and learn. And so, I want to be there. And to do that, I have to
Hmm.
be healthy. You
Hmm.
know, a lot of people. I heard this quote once. That we would die for our kids, right? But instead of dying for our kids, how about we live for our kids? We live healthy for our kids, right? And I think that's a good good thing to do. And we can all do it.
Hmm.
I think
It's a
examples.
reasonable gift that we take care of our own health so that our kids don't have to take care of us at too early an
Absolutely.
age.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, Quentin, would you now? A lot of people who listen to the show will be in that major hardworking growth phase.
Hmm.
And just anecdotally, I've said this many times on the show and to friends, like I find that, and again, this is anecdotally, I find that health, like overall health, including mental health, is better among my 9 to 5 friends than my real estate friends and entrepreneur friends. That's just what I've noticed anecdotally. That's just so my question I'm trying to get to is, what would you tell the person who's working really hard right now in growth phase in terms of like how they can better take care of themselves and if it should be a priority for them?
So you know what I think it is that people are in different stages and they have different personalities. Because if you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner, usually you have a different type of mindset, which doesn't turn off very
Hmm.
easily, and you're always kind of working, right? It's more of a almost like a personality thing. But when you have like a 9 to 5, oftentimes you are somebody that says, I work from 9 to 5, and then after that I do other things, right? The business people often like when I had left my job, I had, some disagreements with my wife because she felt like I was always working. And the thing is that when you own a business, there's no such thing as 9 to 5. You have to make it work. And then once you get it working, you can bring in other people to help you and to scale your business and to give yourself more time. But it took a while to be able to learn how to do that for me, anyways, and to do it well, because you can do it and you can do it poorly. And then you're just giving yourself more work.
Hmm.
So I can see how that can happen, but I think you just have to work hard. Like I felt like I had 3 jobs for a while, and I felt like I was working really hard for probably about, you know, from between 2018 to 2000 and let's say 14 was like that. Or sorry, 2008 to
Yeah, I was
2013.
gonna say you need to
Yeah.
rewind the clock for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I would say that's what it felt like. I felt like I had like 3 jobs, and I felt very like, I had my family, I had my work, and then I had my business, and it took up all my time, right? And I wasn't very balanced. And I think this whole balance thing can, if you try to do what everybody, like every guru tells you, it's not going to work.
Hmm.
Like at times in your life you have to feel like you're doing 3 jobs. At other times in your life you can not be doing that. At this point in my life, I don't need to feel like I have three jobs. It's only if I want to do it
Hmm.
should I have the feeling to be able to do that. I've already established myself, and I do things because I enjoy them. And it took a while to get at that point. But I had to learn, like as a business owner, the buck stopped with me, and it
Hmm.
didn't matter what my employees did. It's my fault. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter, right? And so it was definitely a different mindset. So, like, how would I, what kind of advice would you want me to direct it to, for the 9 to 5 person or the business owner?
Talk to like 2008 Quentin.
2008, Quentin
Yeah.
was working hard because he was learning. I was probably, after the kids were in bed at 8:30, or 8 o'clock sometimes because the kids were young, I was up learning for another 3, 4 hours. I slept maybe 5 or 6 hours a night, for years.
Mhm.
And then my health, like I said, 2018 is when I kind of looked up again. But and then I've been able to change all of that. No, 2008, Quentin, I say you're gonna have to you're gonna have to work hard, man. Like, this isn't like, if you want to do this, you can't just do what everybody else is doing. You can't just do 9 to 5
Mhm.
and then say, oh, and then I'm going to do this on the side for like half an hour a day. Buy Bitcoin. That's better. Go buy
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Are you doing Bitcoin? Do you do
I
much?
am, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Not like, not like what some people are doing. I would be in the six-figure range. I'm not in like the craziness that I've talked to some of my friends. Whew. They're seven figures in, and that's not me.
Yeah.
But
I
I
had one
mean,
friend who was down 500,000. He wasn't very happy at the time. I imagine he's happy now, but
oh,
could you
oh
imagine
wow,
being down 500,000?
yeah. Oh wow, it depends on, that's all relative, right? If you have 20 million, 500,000 isn't, not going to kill you, right? But it's
No,
also
sorry, no,
about
Quentin.
being,
I want to ask you about all of the experiences that you're doing. Like I see, like you really do a lot of experiences that really test
yeah,
your metal and push you out of your comfort zone.
yeah.
Like you mentioned, like you were 300 and something pounds, and then what
Mhm.
was it? A year and a half ago, you're climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah, so in May I climbed Everest with my son, my 20-year-old. We did it together. We spent 3 weeks together in Nepal, which was really cool. So we did base camp, which is not the same as like ice axes and picks and stuff like
Right.
that. But it is challenging for sure. Had altitude sickness, and it was 14 days of a trip, so that was good. I did Kilimanjaro, which was fun. Again, it was like very tough hike.
Mhm.
And I've
Also
done
with your also with one of your boys, or
I didn't do that with my boys. I did Peru with Machu Picchu with my oldest son, and I did the Camino to Santiago, so 120 kilometers with my younger son. So we did from Vigo to the Compostela de Santiago, which is like 20K of walking every day together. I
how
really
many
like
days?
doing those. We went for a week. It was great. Yeah.
So like
And
140K.
no, 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 we did like 120K. There
Oh,
was
only 120K. Okay.
yeah, there's like travel in between, and we kind of went off route sometimes, and it was great though. We had such a good time, and it was just me and him, and I loved that. It was so good. And I love those trips with my boys, and the thing is that my only hope is that they remember it forever, and because I will. And it for me, like, it's about doing those hard things together with somebody else that brings you closer to them. Because I like the first couple of days in doing Everest, I was really sick, but I was sick because I had drank the water at the hotel, and I thought that the water came in like a bottle and it had a cap on it, but it was one of those like caps that come on and off. And I thought, okay, they must have treated the water, right? No. So I ended up getting sick for the first 2 days. I was throwing up black stuff, and my son, we were at the back. I was the slowest in our group of 14 people. My son, grabbed my
Well,
bag.
he had food
He
poisoning
carried,
essentially.
well, right, and I was throwing up black crud. And I was telling him, if I can't make it, you're going to keep going. I'm not letting you, give up because of me. Right. And and I was like, and you know what? He walked with me the whole time. Like when you say like we're walking up a mountain for like 8 hours together, like in slow motion. Basically, I'm like, and he did that with me, and I was just like, man, I've raised a really good kid. Like this guy is a good kid. Like he, and there were some challenges for him too. Like he got altitude sickness every day, and then by the morning he would feel fine, and then he would get altitude sickness again. Like as we kept going up the whole time. And you know but he persevered, and I think that that teaches them something. It teaches them that that these hard things. And he's a baseball player. He plays for the York baseball team.
The highest level, right? Okay.
Yeah, like for
So
him.
he's an
And
athlete.
yeah, he's an athlete. But like altitude affects everybody. It doesn't matter. You could be like an Olympic athlete, and I've seen people get altitude sickness and get pulled off a mountain. Like it doesn't matter. So in August this year, I'm going to be doing Mount Blanc, so which is more of a real climb. So we're actually going to climb Mount Blanc, ice axes, ladders. We do some alpine training. I'm going to India for the first time ever. I'm going to go for 3 weeks in January. I'm going to do like a 14-day excursion, and then meet with some relatives there that I've never met before because I've never been. So things like that. I do want to travel, and the beauty of the businesses that I have is that I can do them anywhere. I don't have to be in Canada to be able to do it. As long as I have a cell phone, I can spend some time doing my business, and getting my work done, and because I have the right team of people around me to help me, right?
Fabulous, Quentin. Now, I want to ask you about because I've seen a lot of growth in terms of like who you spend your time with as well. Like for
Right.
example, the Business Society,
Yep.
Entrepreneurs Organization X.
Yep.
Can you tell us about the importance of like it seems like you also leveled up the people you just spend time with
Yeah.
professionally. Yeah.
Absolutely. You're like, I've always believed that your network is your net worth, and I have friends, and I continue to have friends in all the groups that I was with before. I was in a small group of real estate investors that we had a mastermind, and then I moved from that group into I would say EO, because one of the members, Paul Lynch, was a member of EO, the Entrepreneur Organization, and he introduced me, and I was like, okay, well, I'll try it and see if I like it. I was like, it was really good to have the people in the mastermind group, but it was great also to have like these group of business owners, and they had like a selection criteria, like a criteria for how much income that they're supposed to be making every year in order to participate in the entrepreneur organization as a member. And so the qualification, I thought was helpful, and it kind of changed the level of people that I would be able to be sure that was in the group,
Hmm.
right?
I screened
And
out a
so
lot of fakers. Yeah.
yeah, which is what you have to do.
Hmm.
And then in my forum group, I had really good forum mates. Like and I'm still friends with them. I'm still friends with all my forum members. I did trips like at one, Paul DeMarco. We went to the Philippines together for 3 weeks, and TK, for probably, I think we picked them up about halfway through. Like those people they really are great people, good business owners, but also know how to live life, and that was really cool. And then from there, I was introduced to EOX through one of the members in my forum group. Um, I said that I would qualify, and like because I was having some second thoughts about EO. Just I was finding that I was giving a lot, and I wasn't getting as much, and I wanted to learn differently, so I had joined EOX, and that had worked out really well. I felt like I was, I wasn't the biggest person in the room, but I wasn't the smallest person, and the problems were different, and I was learning more, and the network was different, and the connections were different.
Hmm.
So I really liked that, and some of the business owners were just they're just neat people, and I didn't find them anywhere else. And like one guy, Yannick, he was a business owner in with some restaurants in Toronto, and he's like just a really nice guy, and really good to get to know him over the period of time that I was, that sort of thing. Like those connections were really good, and it continued to grow. And then EOX kind of split, and a few members went back into EO, and then another group was formed called the Toronto Business Society, and that is a very interesting group of guys. I am definitely the smallest person in the room, and like, which is a which is a real pleasure for me because I feel like I'm learning all the time, and the type of things that we do are just like ridiculous. Like last couple of weeks ago, we had the Grey Cup at our event, and I was drinking out of the Grey Cup. Like, who does that? It was just fun, and they're really good guys, and
Hmm.
great forum group that we have together there, and I've really just enjoyed each one of them and
Hmm.
learning from them too, because their problems are problems that I will have, or that uh, I'm I guess, going to have for certain situations, and I think that there's just a lot of good, like a really high quality network of people. It's kind of like why some people pay to go to private school. It isn't necessarily the fact that their education may be better, it's the quality of the network improves, right? There's another group that I had gotten into, but I didn't join in the end, was Tiger 21. It's another really good group. YPO would be another one, but I wouldn't qualify because I'm too old, right? So that EOX group allowed me to qualify because I was in the EO group from before. But like, YPO has different age requirements,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Sorry, Quentin,
And
Quentin, just to pause you there. Toronto Business Society has, I think, what, 15 million revenue and up requirement?
20 million in
20
revenue and
million
up.
US
Yeah,
or Canadian or
I have no idea. That's a good question. I think it's probably Canadian because
right,
it's Toronto.
right.
So that's the requirement. And I'm
US
not
is something similar. I think it's over 15,000 US. And for the listeners'
15.
benefit, a lot of these owners have like 40 to 100 employees. So
Yeah,
the
there.
problems that these type of business owners have are quite unique. Not many people have these challenges and opportunities in front of them.
That's right. But if you're a business owner, you're probably looking to grow to that, and you want to grow to that level, then that's the
Hmm.
type of people that you want to hang around. Or if you've got your business to that level,
Yeah.
then there are other things that it's not just the employee problem. That I found that employees are more of a problem in EO than they were in EOX, because that's just the way I saw it.
Yeah.
It was more other type of things that you were thinking about,
Right.
like passing on a legacy, investing in different things.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more freedom in the business society to invest in different people's projects and things like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's less, like, what so in EO, a lot of the dues, let's say you pay $10,000 in dues, 2,000 of them goes to the Toronto chapter, and then 8,000, let's say, I don't know the exact numbers, goes to like national chapters, because EO is international. It's a great organization. Like,
Hmm.
okay, like when we were traveling in the Philippines, we stayed with, or we traveled visited EO Manila, right? So it's a great organization. But what happens in the Toronto Business Society is it's the same amount, except all the money goes to our retreats. So my last retreat, I didn't pay anything. It just came out of my fees. So I thought that was pretty cool too. For me, I was like, I'm getting the benefits. It's just the quality of people that you have to watch out for, right? And as long as they continue to do a good job with
Screening.
filtering,
Yeah.
I think then that's and they have the thing is they have their own network, right? 100 million people know 100 million people. 20 million people know 20 million people, like it's the network already
Mhm.
that's there. A $1 million person isn't going to know the $20 million person, not necessarily. They might, but not necessarily. So I think that's I think the difference there.
So Quentin, I think it's well, you're the one that introduced me to EO, and so I want to
Yep.
thank you for that. They
Woo!
should thank you too because I'm a board member. Which
What?
oh yeah, yeah,
You got hoodwinked. You got
yeah.
hoodwinked into the
I
board.
volunteer.
Oh yeah. It doesn't, and then everything happens, and you know what? It's a good experience, I'm sure.
Oh,
Like,
it's fun. I'm going to
yeah,
Honolulu for
yeah, but
for the board leadership training. So
yeah. Well, that's what all those fees go to.
yeah. No. So I'm guessing
But
it's safe to say you would recommend because I tell people as well, like Tom and Nick, for example, one of the ones also that helped vouch that told me to join EO as well.
yeah,
It's nice to go to networking events outside the investor community,
yeah,
right? Because
absolutely.
it's just another way of learning and to
Yeah,
meet other people, and there's likely learnings there that you can take and bring it into your investment business.
I would highly recommend EO. Like, I think it's a great group. Or EOA if you're just getting started
Hmm.
under a
Hmm.
million. They have that program that I think that's good.
Yeah, or
Toronto
Toronto Business
Business
Society
Society.
if
Yeah,
you roll at that level, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think everyone should try
Or
them all, like see what you
yeah.
like.
Yeah, and I mean, like you'll find that there are different, like so. Tiger 21, I felt like it was more for business owners who had sold their business and decided to like we're investing and being more defensive, and so that's how I pictured it. I may be wrong, but
Hmm.
I didn't feel like I was at that point. I would consider joining maybe in 10 years from now or 20 years from now, but I plan to keep doing, like, I have no plans on stopping what I'm doing at this point, just because I can do it anywhere. um you know um I just feel like it's something that I can continue to do.
Hmm.
And I'm glad that I built my business this way. Um, like that I can, and like I can go work out every morning. Like it's like great, and everything keeps working and keeps growing and keeps
Hmm.
doing what it's doing. Like it is good, but it took a while to get there, and you have to work hard. And I don't forget any of the lessons I learned from that. I felt like I was working, like we connected before, like 3 jobs at the beginning, but I saw the light at the tunnel, and I just continued to hold on to my asset base. I didn't keep selling it. I kept holding on to it, growing it and growing it.
Hmm.
And, I think that's the key. But most
Right.
people, most people get shiny object, right? They get and like, I'm not going to say that Bitcoin is a shiny object because I'll get murdered on this podcast. Somebody's going to come after me, I'm sure. But I think Bitcoin is great, and if you have less than 100,000, go ahead, go to town, right? Because at least but you have to be ready for the swings of 50% up and 50% down, and sideways, and maybe
Hmm.
you get 3x, right?
Hmm.
And then there's other cryptos which are like, the meme coins and the,
Doge.
yeah, like all of those type of, RWA and AI coins and all that stuff, which are very, very volatile. But I have friends that do extremely well with that stuff. But you got to spend the time and learn. And he also, the guy that I'm thinking about, he spends like 4 or 5 hours every day, like learning about crypto. Like it's like he's committed, right? But but that's the same thing as what I was doing in 2008 and I was learning about real estate and I was
Hmm.
doing it, right? It's not supposed to be easy because then everybody would do it.
Quentin,
If you
more over
want easy
time.
money, go to the casino.
Quentin, more over time. Do we
Oh,
have a moment to talk about Durham REI
sure.
and okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
tell us about Durham REI. And why I bring it up is because there's before we're recording, we talked about a failed real estate networking group, and there's a lot of them have come and gone. Like Durham REI, Rockstar, like they're among the few that have withstood. Over, like, wait, what year did you start Durham REI? It's been a while.
2008. 2000.
2008?
Yeah.
It's been that long. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. 16 years. Yeah. Going into 17. Yeah. You know what? I, I started it because I needed a network and I didn't have a network. And I continued to do it because I was a teacher and I love educating people. So I continue to do it. I mean, I do it because I enjoy it. And whether, honestly, I was saying before, I don't care if I get paid or not, which is probably why everybody comes and goes. Because they start to do it, they realize this isn't like, unless I'm doing like a $20,000 course or something like that, there's not a lot of money in it, right? You have to do these big events and sell big products in order to make big money in that type
Yeah.
of a business. And it's just not why I'm doing it. And my why is different, I think. Um, like my why is more like, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is what's working. This is what's not working. You can take advantage of my network that I have by coming to an event and sharing. And I don't have to keep repeating myself 100 times. Like you just come out and you can
Yeah.
learn and you can
Network.
grow
Yeah.
with, yeah, with all the other people. Like the difference also in that group, which kind of is different than I've seen, is like 80% of the people are like very active investors that have like a portfolio of properties. Whereas when I go to other groups, and I've been to other groups before, it's usually the opposite. Like you have like 20% of the people that are active and 80% that have like 1 to 3 properties and just learning, right? So it's a very kind of different demographic. So it makes the learning higher, but it means that sometimes I don't do a good enough job, and I know this, with the people who are getting started, right? So I created a lot of online materials for them. So we have a whole, like, hundreds of hours of recorded courses and learning and buying your first property and all of that for members to access. So that's how I've kind of compensated for that, because at the events there's a lot of experienced investors, and so it's a little bit different. And
Because a lot of those people from 2008 are still with you.
Yeah, it's funny, but yeah, they are. It's kind of cool. But but also, like, I really like Tom and Nick's events. They're really amazing. I've only been to like one or two. I'd love to go to another one. But I find that they do a really good job with the high level macro stuff, and then they bring some really interesting, good speakers in, and they're good guys. So like I don't like I don't I gotta say I don't like too many realtors.
Me neither.
But yeah, yeah.
Um,
But you, Erwin, and Tom and Nick, I like. So there you go.
where can people learn more about Durham REI?
They can go to durhamrei.com or .ca, and they can catch my adventures on Qman REI. That's on Instagram. I post all the pictures of my trips and I connect with people there. I enjoy posting photos. I don't know why. It's fun.
Yeah, what was the deal with the pictures of the photos of you down on the ground after you've fallen or something?
I don't know. I do quirky things sometimes. And then I was like, man, every day on this trip, I'm gonna take a picture of me on the ground. And you know what? People loved it. I was getting so many, my kids are like, why are you falling down all the time? Like, I don't know. It was just fun.
Oh, it's just
And
funny. They were staged. They weren't actually after you've fallen.
no, so it was great. I've been doing that now. Like I was in Mexico and I did another one where I'm on the ground too. So as I do different trips, I'm gonna do that just for fun. So spot Quentin on the ground in which country?
Where's this one? Mexico?
Oh yes, that's in Mexico. That's outside of Puerto Vallarta. I was on the ground there.
And not on the ground getting fancy fitted for fancy suits.
Yeah, that's I got custom jeans made at that was again Business Society event.
Worth it?
So oh yeah, the jeans are the best jeans I've ever worn in my life. How
No
crazy it is.
kidding.
I
What would
couldn't
some
believe it.
what would should someone budget for that?
I have no idea. I didn't pay for it. They gave it to me for free. Yeah, it was. I was just like thinking, they fit my jeans. They like I got like my like studs with my initials on it in the jeans and stuff. And I don't know. I've no idea how much it costs, but it was great. What was it called? Bay and King and Bay bespoke tailors, something like that. It was awesome.
Folks can find out on your Instagram. I'll look it up later as well. I'm just curious. So actually now I stumbled upon this picture before and
Oh,
after.
yeah, I had done pull-ups for the first time actually, and now I'm doing like I had done one pull-up, which was awesome. Yeah, 2017, 330 pounds, and then you know, just I think 196 pounds there. I felt really good. Now I'm able to do like 10 pull-ups, and then I go right to 20 push-ups, and then I do arm curls after that. But I'm like I feel really good like when I'm doing that now. It's really it's awesome.
Quentin, you've been really generous with your time. Can I ask you for some final thoughts you'd like to share with like a newer investor?
Yeah. I think one of the things that you have to watch out for in social media, and because this is where people get a lot of their information from now, anyways, is be careful about the shiny objects that are out there. They're great, and some of them will take you down the right path as long as you stick to it. But it's about being consistent over a decade. It's not about being consistent over a week or even a year. It's over time, over a longer period of time. Since that picture in 2017, it took time to get to where I am now, and I'm probably in the best shape of my life, and I'm 51, right? But it took time to do that, and I didn't get distracted, and I didn't go and look at, some other's diet and some other something or other, right? I'm just focused on doing what was working and being consistent about it over a longer period of time. And I changed different things out, but I'm still consistent. And I think that's what young investors need to do is be consistent. If you're going to go into the US, go into the US whole hog and focus on it for like a decade or 2 decades. If you're going to stay in Ontario and focus on that for, a decade or 2 decades. Don't get don't get disillusioned.
Right.
Remember, the obstacle is the way.
Yeah, don't spread yourself out and just right. Quentin, again, great catching up with you. Congrats on the success. Congrats on all the weight loss, and not just even the weight loss, but like you're in the best shape of your life. Like how many
Thank
people
you.
can say that?
Yeah, I know it's crazy. If you would have asked me like doing one pull-up was crazy. Then doing 10 was amazing.
Yeah, I was actually
It's good.
googling like how many people can do 10 pull-ups. I think it's a really really small percentage of the population.
Really? Wow, that's
Post it on
cool.
your Instagram. See if we can see how many people can do it.
I don't know.
When I was
I'm gonna.
golfing with my buddies, they're like, "Hey, Erwin, you look strong." Like, yeah, I was doing pull-ups today. Like, what's a pull-up? I'm like, you guys can do pull-ups, right? Like, you mean push-up? Like, no,
Oh, really? So it's not.
I don't
It
think
isn't a
pull-ups are that
common thing.
common.
Yeah,
Uh,
interesting. Okay. Well, I'll have
I,
to
I,
look it up.
like, how is it not less than 10% of the population can do 10 strict pull-ups? Right? I'd be shocked. I think it's a great goal for anyone to have. I just don't think many people can do it.
Right. And you know what? I think both my sons can do it, and so maybe I was kind of like, oh, well, they can do it. I can do it. And then I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Darn
Yeah, go
it.
ask them about their friends that aren't in high level sports. How many of them can do 10 pull ups?
Right. Right. Yeah, I will. I'll
Right.
find out. Maybe it's a lot less than I thought. Okay.
Yeah. All right,
Always
Quentin,
learning.
thanks so much for doing this. Congratulations on all the success. I don't think I need to tell you to keep going.
No, I appreciate that, Erwin. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, friends, that wraps up another episode of the Truth About Real Estate Investing show for Canadians. Hope you got as much out of this one as I did. Remember that whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, there's always something new to learn, and it's always about building that practical knowledge base that gets you closer to financial freedom. If you found value today, please do us a favor and leave us a review or a rating, share this episode with a friend, or better yet, join our community of real estate investors who are taking action and making moves. And hey, if there's a topic you want us to cover or have there's a certain guest you'd like us to have on the show, drop me a line. My DMs are open on social media. Reply to this email that this have arrived on. I'm not hard to find. We're all about getting you the unfiltered truth to help you on your journey. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay smart, stay curious, and keep building that future. Catch you later.